Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Basic Box Podcast with me, your boy Adrian Adams. Hey, I hope everybody's enjoying, the season of giving. I know we're in the holiday season. We just got past Thanksgiving not too long ago, and Christmas is right around the corner. So I just want to say happy holidays to everybody. I hope you enjoy. Like I said, I hope you're enjoying the season. Hey, just take the time to be a little kinder and nicer to everybody. So hopefully everybody is, being just thankful for everything that's thankful for what's going on in your life, thankful thankful that things aren't as bad as they could be, and being hopeful that things can get better. Let's just keep the love and the cheer out there. Just going to, as usual, going to jump right into it. I appreciate everybody who's listening. If you are a new listener, welcome. I hope you enjoy the show. If you are a reoccurring listener, hey, thanks for coming back to listen. I always appreciate the love and support. And as always, share with your friends, share with your family. I would greatly appreciate that. And again, please always let me know how I can make the shows better and some of the topics that you might want to hear me talk about and address. And I'll do the research on them and and come to the mic and do what I do. So, like I said, let's jump into it. Today, I want to talk about black culture. And the reason why I want to talk about black culture is because I watched this video, and it's Ben Shapiro. I don't know if you know who that is. I'm not crazy familiar with who he is. I've seen some of the videos and stuff where I know he's, you know, his views are scattered across, depending on who you talk to. I don't really follow him or anything, but I've seen some videos with him. But it's one particular video that I saw that came across my YouTube, and um, it was this video where they were sitting on this panel. I'm not sure even what the panel was or where it was when it was. I'm not sure, but he made the comment. He was like, "I don't feel like race has anything to do with the treatment of people," and instantly, two black people just was like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." You know us. We're animated, and we did all of this, and he said it has nothing to do with race. It has to do with culture. He said it has absolutely nothing to do with race. It has to do with culture. And he then said, you know, hey, uh, look at your graduation rates. He said, look at, you know, what you guys are doing. Look at the culture, and I instantly kind of was like, I don't know why this video has just been on my mind because I'm like, yo, the culture, you know, race, culture, because it's two different things. It's race and culture is two different things. And I sit here and I go, wow, why is that something that I just can't get off my mind? Why is it that what he said something that I can't get off my mind? And I've made mention of it in a previous video before, but I didn't actually make an episode about it. But the reason why I want to address black culture and talk about black culture is because he was on to something. When he said it didn't have to do with race, but it had to do with culture, he was on to something. I don't fully agree with him though. I do feel like race plays a part into how things are, how people are treated, because no matter how much we want to sit here and say, um, race doesn't, we're not about that anymore. We don't, racism is dead and all of this stuff is dead. All of this stuff is gone. It's not. It's not. It's not going. It's not. It's not gone. It's not going to die. It's not going to disappear. I don't give a crap if you are married to a white woman. I don't care if your kids are biracial. I don't care. If if you work with a bunch of white people, and it doesn't matter. We've seen way too many times where race plays a part in society. So I don't agree with him there. Race still plays a part, and it plays a major part, and it plays a bigger part than any of us really care to admit, no matter how time goes. But where I say I agree to an extent with the culture, it being a problem, or there being some emphasis on that, is that he was right. When you look at black culture, the culture itself is very dynamic. And we are dynamic in great ways, and we're dynamic in horrible ways as well. And when you look at our culture and when you look at how rich it is, because we are rich in history. We are rich in so many things. We have talent that, is really, I don't even think that we can measure the talent. I don't even think that we can, put any type of limit on, because we can do so many things. And I brag about my culture because I'm proud to be black. I'm proud to be black. I'm not tripping if you are a white person. Go, hey, I'm proud to be white. We have great. I don't care. I'm not that guy. But when I sit here and say, as a black person, I look at the talent and I look at the credit that comes with it. The credit does not match what our gifts bring. And that's why I say we're so dynamic, because we're able to influence, we are able to adapt, we are able to create, we are able to, evolve. We're able to do so many things, and we're able to do so many powerful things. And our culture and our heritage is so strong. And it's really great. But on the flip side of that, our culture is very flawed. Our culture has many issues and many problems that so often we don't want to address. And when I look at how we are treated, race plays a part, but the cultural upbringing plays a part in how we act to in how we are perceived. When we talk about so many areas, because I've talked about multiple areas across this platform, many times we don't address the issues that are on the negative side. We are last in so many things. We are, we're last in education. We are, we're behind in financial gains. We are, in poverty. Many of us are in poverty. Many of us are just struggling. We don't have the, like I said, in education, we're it's so many different things that we are lacking in. And it's like, when we look at it, when we look at the things that we are lacking in, and the way that we are um, perceived, and the way that we go about doing things in our everyday life, our culture is just, I mean, like, I'm trying to figure out the best way to say it. It's like, it's almost like we're so confused on so many levels. Like I said, like looking at education, as far as high school, like as far as graduating high school, we're one of the, we're last. Not even, I was about to say we're one of the last, but we're last in every statistic. And that I looked at where we graduate, we're last. There's some sites, depending on which one you look at, that say we're at 78%. Some say that we're at 80%. But in comparison, though it sounds high, it's not as high. We're the last. We're behind. The list goes, basically, it is Asian that graduates with 93%, 94%. It is white, it is white children that, for some, they have it at 89%, others have it at 88, 80, between that 86, 89%. Then you have Hispanic that is at 83%, like anywhere from that 83% to 80%, depending on, like I said, these are depending on what websites, because I'm looking at a website right now that's called datacenter.kidscount.org. And I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm referencing some of these sites that I bring up, but when I don't see sites that I am particularly, familiar with or necessarily comfortable with, that I don't really see a lot of, that I don't really have, like I said, a great knowledge base of. I reference them, but I take everything with a grain of salt. So a lot of these I reference, I've kind of compared them to different sites, but I'm taking them with a grain of salt. So it's just like but I as I do with any information, but taking these with a grain of salt because I'm just not 100% familiar with all of the websites, and I just couldn't find the articles that I thought would be out there and would find on the data source. But from the comparison of many of the articles that I've read and from the one that I'm using, like I said, it's Asian Americans, it is white children, it's then Hispanic, it's Hispanic and Latino, and then it's us and Native Americans. That's where we are. We are last. And like we're depending on where, like I said, depending on what stat you raise, because some have it as we are the last at 80%, from 76% to 80%. Then some stats have it as Native Americans being last. So it really depends on um, what stat sheets you're looking at. But you know, that's saying something to me. And when I say our culture, when you talk about the culture, how often do we sit here and penalize people for being educated? And where you'll sit here and say, "Oh snap! If you're educated, you're prissy. If you're not educated, you're beneath me." And I don't even want to necessarily say that's just black culture in itself, but it is and I'm not saying it like it's just us, like we're just the only people who do it. But what I'm saying is it's so prevalent in our community because we're not graduating. Many of us are not graduating. Many of us do not have the high school diplomas, which means we're going back later in life to try to get GEDs and complete our high school diplomas and do different things like that. And so it's like when we come in with the culture, why? Why is it that we're not? Why is it that we're the last ones? Why is it that when we sit here and speak of education, though we speak very highly of it, though many black people at times speak very highly of education. We'll talk and say, "Hey, you need to go and get educated and do all of these different things." We don't always necessarily mean college. We don't always necessarily mean school. When we say we need to get educated, for some of us, well, you need to be woke, you need to wake up, you need to go do your research, you need to go do X, Y, and Z. But it's not always us sitting here saying we need to go get a college education. It's not always us sitting here saying that we need to go get, a high school diploma. And to me, that is very indicative on us because our education is not the same. Some of us, oh man, I'm street smart. Oh well, then they book smart, but they ain't street smart. Like we're the only if you pay attention, our culture is one of the cultures that literally put emphasis on street smarts. Oh well, man, you got to know what's going on. You need to know what's going on. And I'm not. And here's the thing: I'm not necessarily saying it's bad because I do feel like as a black person, you do need to be street smart. You need that, which is we call common sense. And know different things, and then you also got to sit here and know you have to be educated to fit in other places. But it's like we demonize those people who sit here and know how to flip the switch, to know how to be this person at work and then to be this person at home. We pick and choose, and we play with it. And I'm not sure, and I'm like, why is that part of our culture? Why is the culture like that? Why is it that we are comfortable with sitting here saying, okay, hey, education is something that we play and twist the knob on? Why is that part of our culture? To where education is, if you're educated, if you know how to speak, if you know how to talk, if you know how to say certain things, if you have a certain tone, if you have a certain inflection, and certain words, that It's, oh man, you think you above us all. Look at college boy. And I even started looking into and I even, like I said, I went to college. I went to the college rates and started looking at what is our graduation rates there. And it says that black or African American students in bachelor programs have a 5-year graduation rate of 40.5%. This is, again, this is on the low end. We're right beneath us in this one is American Indian Alaska Natives, who are at 39.3%. So that's what I'm saying. Again, education wise, we're not going to college or we're not finishing. And it's not just, like I said, it's not just us. There's multiple other races that do not finish school. I'm not sitting here saying that we're it. But what I'm saying is, when I talk about the culture, what is our focus? Is our focus on the education system, or is our focus on knowing and being able to move in other ways? Do we put the emphasis on being, college educated? Do we put the emphasis on knowing more, on knowing and learning as much as we possibly can? Because again, another video where it was a black person, he was sitting on the show, and I don't know. I'm sorry. Like I said, I reference stuff, but it's very difficult for me to pick. I'm horrible with names and I'm horrible with situations because I watch so many videos. But he was talking about black people in the NBA, and he said, hey, there's only so many jobs. I think he was like, there's only 4,000 jobs in the NBA. He said you have millions of black kids that are trying to get 4,000 or 6,000, however many jobs there are, however many positions there are in the NBA. He said you have millions of black kids trying to get 6,000 positions in the NBA. He said, why is it that we're so focused on trying to make sure that we get these kids into the NBA and we're trying to get them into the NFL? But we have hundreds of, now mind you, it's only 6,000 positions in the NBA. There's only so many thousand positions in the NFL. He said, but there's hundreds of thousands of jobs of being doctors. He said of being lawyers, of being businessmen. He said of being in different positions. There's hundreds of thousands of jobs that we can be prepared for that we are not even mentally focused on doing. He said, why is it that we're comfortable with that? Why are we comfortable with teaching them, hey, you can get a job at being, you can be in the NBA, but we're not comfortable with sitting there saying, hey, yo, you can own your own business. And it starts to look, and again, we go to culture and to look at the NBA, to look at the NFL. What is it that the NFL and the NBA has that draws us? Because for us, it's about what we got. It's about how you look. It's about how good you look. It's about what you got. When you look at the NFL, when you look at the NBA, you have it to where what's the story? Oh, they came from a single parent home. They didn't have, they came from a single parent home. They didn't, have no money. Daddy wasn't around. So now they're making, 300, they're making millions of dollars. They're making millions of dollars. They bought their mama a house. They bought their sister a house. They now drive in the new Bugattis. They wearing $50,000 chains. And it's the same thing when you look at rap artists. Our culture loves these things because it's like, to us, oh, well, man, we made it out the hood. We made it out of this place where we had nothing, because that's our mindset. Oh, we had nothing. We couldn't do anything. This is how I grew up. I grew up like this. I was doing this. I was doing X, Y, and Z. And now I have the ability to have hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, and I can do and buy whatever I want. That's what our focus is. That's what we like to sit here and say, hey, man, I got this. I made it out of this situation, and now I'm killing the game. But it's like, how many people actually made it to that point? How many people actually are successful NBA stars? How many people are actual successful NFL stars? How many people are famous rappers? When you really think about it, it's only a few thousand. How many, there's only a few thousand. You can't really, you're not going to sit here and say that there's millions and millions and millions of of rappers that are rich today. You're not going to sit here and say that there's millions of NFL players that are rich today. It's not like that. But we're comfortable with looking at this cultural influence, like Allen Iverson. They give Allen Iverson the credit of revolutionizing the culture in NBA because AI dressed different. AI had the cornrows. AI had the jewelry. He dressed different, and they said, "Hey man, he was the influencer." When you look at it, he had the tattoos and stuff like that, and he looked cool. Hey yo, I remember AI. I remember AI coming into the league, and I remember seeing everywhere you looked, it was Allen Iverson. Everywhere you looked, it was AI. It was AI. It was AI. AI did this. Hey man, AI had to. He talked different. He walked different. He looked. Hey, I remember. But we're so, and this is why I even say with us, we're so impactful. But because we only know how to do a finite number of things and influence things in a certain way. This is what we want. So I see him and I think like, hey, yo, man, I can make it just like he did. And that's what I want to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the culture of that. There's nothing wrong with the mindset of sitting here saying, hey, I want to do what he's doing. But it's like, why do I have to do it exactly like he's doing? Why do I have to do it why do I have to be in the NBA? Why is that the only thing that I want to do? Why is it that I believe that this is the only thing that can give me what it is I want instead of doing something else? It's like, why is that ingrained in us? Why is that there? That we feel like it's quick. We got to be quick with it. We got to be quick with it. We got to be quick with it. And it's like, is that racial or is that cultural? Oh, this is the way that we got to do it. And when you look at our culture, when you look at what it is that we do, look at how we dress, look at how we talk, look at the way that if we don't do things in this way, oh man, because I crack jokes. I used to crack those jokes all the time. Ah man, dude, you ain't black, bro. Look at you talking like a white boy. So I'm guilty of it. Like I ain't talking about nobody because I can talk about myself. I've done it. Hey man, look at you, man. This dude, because we all know, we all know, we all know. We gotta do that white voice sometimes because we can't sit here, we can't sit here and talk like us. Because if we do, we know it ain't gonna necessarily go well. And so, but I look at so many things that goes with our culture, and it's like, hey, why are we like this? Is it racial or is it cultural? What is it in our culture that makes us feel like we have to do this? What example is set for us that we have to do stuff like this? And I started looking at different things. Like I said, I started looking at us culturally in as even in as far as crimes and different things. I started looking at, the crimes that we commit. I started looking at us to sit here and say the poverty statistics. Like I said, we're the highest. We're number one in poverty. We're at 19.5%. White people are at 8.1. Asians are at 9.3. Hispanics and other races are at 17.1. But we're the highest. We're the highest in poverty. I'm sitting here and I said I'm looking at how we're having children. We're not number one. We're number three. We're number three on the list. And then I looked at this and I was like, wow, I did not know that this was, I didn't know how bad it was for us. I'm going to be honest. Divorce rate. Divorce rate is, we're at 30.8%. Black people are at 30.8%. The Hispanic divorce rate is the second highest at 18.5%. So think about that. The black divorce rate is at 30.8%. The second highest is 18.5%. White people are half of our divorce rate. White divorce rate makes up only 15.1%. And the Asian divorce rate among other races is low at 12.4%. So somebody's going to sit here and be like, man, why is that important? Why is that important to sit here and say black divorce rate is at 30.8%? It's important because it messes with our family. We are the most likely to say F it and walk away from each other. We are more likely to literally sit here and say, I don't need you. I don't have to deal with this. I can walk away from you. I don't need you. Because when you look at it, divorce is going up, and I'm not saying like divorce is going up. Everybody, a lot of people, and I've done a podcast about this. Please go back and listen to that podcast. I actually did a podcast about this where I talked about why divorces are going up, and it's women leaving men because they feel like they are in better positions and they don't need men for support anymore. Why are we number one? And this is not like I'm just sitting here going like, "Hey, yo, man, this is the old." No, this is from October 28th, 2022. Why are we number one? Why are we the number one race that's willing to get divorced? And and I start to look, and again, it goes to culture. We are coached differently than everybody else. That's why I say we are great when we're positive, but we are horrible when we're horrible. What I mean by that is we are when you look at what's going on in the black community, we don't want to stick with each other. And I know a lot of folks gonna sit here and be like, "Oh man, you bashing black people." You want to know why? Because I love black people. I love black people enough to sit here and be honest with us. This ain't here to tear nobody down. This ain't sitting here to piss on my race. This ain't here to sit here and make and downgrade black people in any way. But what I'm talking about is culturally, we are jacked up in so many different areas. Because and I feel like this, and this is why I feel like culturally we are jacked up. Because we don't know where we come from. We quickly forgot where we come from. And I'm not just talking about Africa. I'm not talking about Africa. I'm not talking about that. I wasn't born in Africa. My parents weren't born in Africa. My ancestors were. And yes, we can sit here and say that culturally, their culture was taken from them. And to me, is that part of it? Yes. I feel like that is a major part. It was taken from them. However, at what point do we adopt something? At what point did we adopt? At what point do we adopt? And now that's the question. What did we adopt? That to me is the question about our culture. When did we start to adopt all of these different things into our culture? When did it become, hey, we got to make a lot of money and we got to make it quick? Hey, education. If education, if you talk a certain way, if you do stuff a certain way, oh man, you ain't black enough. If you ain't seen or done this, you ain't black enough. Oh man, you don't know nothing about the streets. Hey man, you don't know. When did for a long, because you growing up, when I was growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, it was, hey man, you need to go to jail. Because man, if you go to jail, then you got street cred. If you go to jail, man, you hardcore. You know what to do. So it was about going to jail. It was about, we got to have the fast cars, we got to have the loose women, we got to have the number one, we got to have the number one shoe, we got to sit here and we got to do X, Y, and Z in order to be credible. When did we start to adopt all of these different things into our culture? How much of it is forced, was forced, how much of it was learned, and how much of it was created? Those are the questions that I have about black culture. Because, like I said, When we are good, we are good. Our culture is great. When we're good, when we're on certain stuff, when we are at our best, when we are at our apex, we are influencers. That's why anybody who asks me, I would say right here, who has the most influence on anything? It's black people, and that's hands down. White people might control certain stuff, but black people influence everything. We are the most feared. We are the most influenced. We are the most. We're the most that has. We have the most influence musically, inventions, evolution. That's us. Think about it. If you go right now, there's not one country on this planet that's not affected by our history. If right now we when you sit here and go talk about these museums, if you go take out all of the black influenced and black creations, these museums will be empty. If you had to give Africa, if you had to go back, and I'm gonna be real, not just black folk, and I know people gonna probably get a little upset, but not just black folk. When you just talk about people of color, when you talk about the Native Americans, when you talk about the Spanish, when you talk about Brazilians, when you talk about the Spaniards, when you talk about all of these different, when we talk about all of these different races and all of these cultures that have had an impact on just the lives and the beauty of the world. If we had to give back all of these influences, if we have to give Africa back their all of their, art and all of their inventions, if we had to give all of that stuff back to Africa, if we have to give all of this stuff back to Mexico, if we had to give all of this stuff back to the Native Americans, if we had to give all of this stuff back to Spain, if we had to do that, if all of these museums had to do that, there wouldn't be a museum. There wouldn't be a British museum. There wouldn't be anything that's really worth it because it'd be what, two sections? It'd be two sections. That's it. When you look at how we influence the world, man, we are so freaking powerful. But it's like, at what point did we start adopting and contributing to bull? Like, when did that become a cultural acceptance? Because we do. It's unfortunate, but we are. We are very, as much as we have the power to influence, we are very easily influenced, in my opinion. And you can say that's because the culture was taken away from us. And maybe, and I'm not going to, and I'm smart enough to sit here and say that's a possibility. That's a huge possibility because we're the only culture that has had its, you know, identity ripped away from it. We are not only, and let me rephrase that. I'm not going to say that we're the only culture, but what I'm going to say, matter of fact, let me fix it. I feel like this might goes better because if I fix it, I think it'll be better. We had so much taken away from us when we came here, when we were sold. And Africans did sell us because now, that's the selling point nowadays. Well, Africans sold you and black people had slaves in America. Oh, shut up. It doesn't matter. It just, like, I'm gonna be real with it. And I'm gonna say this, a lot of people, oh no, it doesn't matter. No, it really doesn't, because if you really kind of look at it at the end of the day, who benefited from Jim Crow? Because I don't know too many black folk that benefited from segregation. I don't know too many black people that benefited from Jim Crow. I don't know too many people that benefited, you know, when all of that stuff started kicking in. We can talk about the time after the Civil War where black people were able to be, congressmen and governors and all of that stuff. We can talk about that time, but it's not going to be a long period of time because what happened? It went back to segregation. It went back to us not being equal. Not that it ever stopped. Not that it ever really stopped being, that it ever stopped being that. So we can talk about all of that. We can talk about all of that stuff. Oh, black people own slaves. Okay, cool. But so did white people. You can sit here and talk about how Africans sold slaves to white people. You bought them, you used them, you mistreated them, you perpetuated the system. So your hands ain't clean in it. Like, I hate that. Oh yeah, they sold us slaves. You bought them, fool. you're still guilty. That's like me. That's like literally sitting here going, "Hey, yo, man, oh my god, I I I used a prostitute." Yeah, well, she's a prostitute. Well, you used her though. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, okay, but you used the prostitute. Well, the pimp sold her to me. The pimp told me I could do it. Yeah, but you used her. You still invested. You still paid your money. You did what you wanted to do with the prostitute, and she left. You can't sit here and be like, well, I mean, the pimp offered her. You still did the wrong. You still did everything wrong in that scenario. You still did. He sold her. You bought her. You used her, and there it was. So it doesn't really sit here and matter when people go, oh well, well, black people owned slaves and Africa sold them. You bought them. You used them, and you made sure that they knew that they were property and not human. So that's what I'm saying. Can you sit here and say all of that stuff had an impact? Yes, it did. It most definitely did. Did that contribute to the culture that we are today? Yes. And why do I feel like our culture is flawed in so many ways? It's because we are trying to make up for all of the ways that we were mistreated. And we literally frown and we look down on the things that remind us of those times. When you really think about it, the black educational system, we didn't have great, the schools, we weren't allowed into prestigious schools. We had to fight in order to get into the schools. So I don't think so. When you really look at the education, a lot of our parents were not educated because we couldn't be educated. When you look back then, we couldn't go to the schools. We weren't allowed. If you were an educated black person, you couldn't vote. If you were a slave that was, taught to read and write, if you could read and write as a slave, you were executed. So education has been something that has been denied to us, even though we were educated. So it's like, and before we got here, we were educated in what we needed, but in order to survive here, we wasn't educated on how to survive here. So I feel like, yes, that has a lot to contribute to why the culture looks down, because it's like, hey, we couldn't get it. We couldn't be educated. We couldn't get the education. So we frown on it because we look at it and go, well, we didn't need it, or hey, my grandfather didn't have it, or my great great grandfather only had a third grade or fourth grade education. So I think that's why we frown down. That's why we frown on education. When I sit here and look at the way that our community rallies around, rappers and NBA stars and the stuff that we do, I think the reason why so many of us long for all of that is because we look at it as they have the life that we want. It's material. And I'm not going to even necessarily say we're going to just to put it all on NBA players and sports people and rap, because you have a lot of business people that looks down that when we get something, when we get money, when and it's again, it's not just a black thing. It is in multiple, different places. But for us, we're very freaking blatant about it. We are we're very outspoken about it. Oh, I got this. Oh, I got that. Oh, I got this. Oh, I got that. I got, and I drop. We're very particular in letting folk know what we got when we get it. And when we don't have it, and that's what I'm saying, we spend so much time trying to look like we got everything together. We spend so much time trying to get and look like we got something that we're going broke trying to get it. We ain't even, and we can't afford it. So many of us are literally working just to pay for an image because we are more impressed. We are more we're interested. We are more interested. I can't say it. I can't say it. Interested. There we go. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get it to work. We're more interested in trying to make sure that people think we got it than actually knowing that we have it, than actually having it. And I've seen this because in the places that I work, the biggest issues that I've ever seen in the work atmosphere is black people who made it. The biggest, oh my God, the biggest gatekeepers are black people who made it. These fools will literally tear you down because they're like, hey, yo, you're not about to mess up what I got. You're not about to mess up what I got. and you ain't about to mess up what I can probably get down the line. So the biggest like doorkeepers and the worst, some of the worst people I've ever met were uppity black folk who felt like, hey, I'm making, you know, six figures. I'm making six figures and you're not making six figures. So you're beneath me. They talk to you different. They treat you different. And to me, it's because that's what we've been told. It's like, hey, yo, once you reach a certain level and once you're doing this, hey man, you can't do that. You can't talk to, you can't mess with them because that'll mess it up. And again, I think I've mentioned this in the past episode where I've seen where I watched a video where where I don't know if it was a movie, I don't know if it was an actual documentary, I don't know, but I want to say it was a movie. But what he said made so much sense. It was from either the '60s or the '70s, and he said, "What you do is," he said, "you give a black person who's not known to have power a title." Give them a little bit, give them a little increase. Put them over other black people. And what you will do is, and what you'll see is, those black people will start to resent each other because because the black person who's over everybody, he's going to start looking down on them. They're going to start looking down on them. The people who are beneath that person is going to start despising them because they're over them in the way that they treat them. So now you as the actual, you know, manager or the director or the whatever you are, you the actual person in charge. He was talking about white people. He was saying the actual person in charge. Now don't even have to worry about trying to make anything make sense or work or keeping them in place because guess what? This black person who has a title, who's now making money, is going to make sure that they stay in check, that they do all of the dirty work for you. And that's how you keep order without even having to crack a whip. That's what we've done. That's what we've adopted into our culture. That money is the thing, that money and that material and a position and a title makes all of the difference than anything else. And even when you look, and that's what I'm saying, and that's divorce rate. When I look at the divorce rate, and this should be like literally, this to me can be a whole nother episode, which I'm pretty sure one day it will. It's where I look at the other episodes where I say, hey, in our divorce rates, why are we at 30? Why are we at 30.8%? Because we always want something better. We always want something different. And when we get it, the way that we look down, the way that our attitude changes towards it is that we had. So, and again, in the old episode, I'm telling you, women are more likely to divorce men. Women are more likely to divorce a man than a man is likely to divorce a woman. So that means out of that 30.8% that that is in the black community, what percentage do you think is women? And why is it that the black women are so quick to literally to divorce a black man? And then what's crazy is they'll they'll dog the black man, say the black man don't live up to these requirements, I don't need you, blah 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 blah, or they'll go jump to go be with a white man and treat him better. Now, on the same side of that, black men will go date white women. You've heard several black men sit here and go, I'd rather marry a white woman or I'd rather be with a white woman because she's willing to listen to me. She's willing to treat me with a certain amount of respect. She's willing to be loyal to me. She's willing to do X, Y, and Z. And again, why is it that we have a culture that is predicated on this? The woman is not willing to listen to the man anymore. The man is not willing to be something, to be an actual man to the woman anymore. So you have two sides that are at a disagreement. We are steadily getting further and further and further and further and further apart. And that is starting to be adopted into our culture where black women do not feel like, hey, I have to listen to you. If you're not making this amount of money, if you're not doing X, Y, and Z, then I don't need you to be my man. If I don't have to cook, I don't have to clean, I don't have to listen, I don't have to respect, I don't have to do all of this stuff. Or if I do, it's because you had to do X, Y, and Z. You had to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. You had to do all of that before I ever did A. Why is that becoming part of our culture? Becoming part of our culture? How did we go from being the culture that was literally willing to die to be married to each other? We were literally willing to sacrifice our lives, lay our lives down to make sure that our wives, that our husband, that our children actually survived, just survived one more day. We were willing to lay down our lives. And now all of a sudden, we ain't even willing to lay down a goddamn dollar to make sure that everybody exists, that we have that unity. And you're not going to sit here and tell me that that's not becoming culture, because it is. The fact that we have a 30.8% divorce rate should tell you that it's becoming our culture. And I know people are going to listen to this and you're going to say whatever it is that you want to say, and I don't care. My thing is this: if you love something enough, you have to be willing to sit here and say, hey, yo, man, we got to fix this stuff. And I'm not saying that we're going to be perfect. And I'm not sitting here saying that we're going to literally fix all of these things overnight. But what I'm saying is, what are we adopting into our culture that is now putting us in a position to where and this is just my personal opinion, that we're not living up to what we were. We're not living up to the greatness that we have. And that's what I'm saying. For us to have the influence, for us to have this influx, why is it that we're so self-destructive at this point? Why are we willing to destroy us and what we've built and what we've accomplished? How much of it what is it? And I don't even necessarily know how much. I don't want to say how much of it is our fault, because if we're adopting it, it's on us. If we are adopting this stuff into us, if we are accepting this stuff into our culture, it has to. Where's the resiliency? And the question is, why? How much of it has to do with this is all we know, this is what we had to do, this is just how we, progress? Is this us, is this forced on us? I don't know. Like I said, I personally believe it has a lot to do with all of it. I believe that the answer is all of the above. Because I look at it and go, something had to happen. And it's because in the positions that we in. And the point, another point that I would like to make is that I thought about the other day. It was like, you hear so many people say, what is the problem with black people? What is the problem with race? And black people always come up, what is the problem? What is the problem? It can't be race. And you hear so many white people, you hear so many black people always go, well, it's the white people's fault. You hear white people go, no, it's the black people's fault. You hear this person sits there and say, okay, well, no, it's because you guys don't want this. And like I said, culturally, it's cultural. You hear so many people say, hey, well, it's culture. Then you'll hear people say, no, it's just the way that you treat the racists. It's bigotry. It's the history. It's the systematic thing. You hear so many people want to blame something. You hear so many people that sit here and go, no, it's not my fault. It's your fault. No, it's not my fault. It's your fault. No, it's not my fault. It's your fault. This is the idea that hit me just the other day. And what came to me was, if everybody is trying to blame somebody else for the problem, the one thing that you can agree on is that there's a problem. That's the only thing that we agree on. The only thing that's agreed on is that there's a problem. Now, nobody wants to agree on whose fault it is. But in trying to place the blame and not take the blame, you're admitting that there is a problem. You're admitting that there is something wrong. It needs to be fixed, but you just don't want to take the blame for it. There is an issue in the black community. There is an issue in the black culture. I can't sit here and say, all of the things that are wrong. I'm just like addressing a few things. But what I'm saying is the one thing that everybody can come to the conclusion is that there is a problem. There is an issue and it needs to be fixed. I don't know who's going to fix it, but I know it starts with us to fix it. And that's what I'm saying. We have to stop. And what we have to stop doing is, tearing each other down in order in order to rise up. We have to quit using each other as a stepping stone. We have to just quit trying to break people's legs so we can use them as a pillar. That was what we've had that done to us too many times. We've had that done too many times. I look at, like, even now, I look at what's going on with Deion Sanders. You have so many black people that are saying that, oh man, he sold out. He sold out because he left this school, he left the HBCU to go to Colorado. And I believe it was Bomani Jones. He was like, and I'm not, quoting him word for word, but he was like, well, you sold the dream and then you left the dream. It's like, no, dude, I showed you, I gave you 2 or 3. He gave this school, what, 3 years? 2-3 years? He took a program. In a school that was literally in the dumps. Practice field looked like Swiss cheese. You put these boys' names. You told them, hey, we need to put these boys' names on the jersey. You called in favors. This dude called in favors from his friends. Started holding other people accountable to help uplift this school. He started the assignment. He started it. Now it's on the next person to come pick it up. We want to say, why is it that we're sitting here why are we sitting here penalizing him? Because he's sitting here going, hey, I want something better now. Hey, I've introduced this now. I've introduced this into your world. I've shown you how to get it. I've shown you how to make something work. I've given you the ability and how to make this stuff work. I've shown you how to do this. Now it's time for me to move on and let the next person in, and to let you do it. Why are we upset at him? Why are we mad because this dude did something that other people wasn't doing? And now that it's time for him to think about his family, it's time to start thinking about some of his dreams and what it is that he wants to do. Now everybody's mad. Why is it part of our culture to sit here and say, hey, yo, look, you need to take everybody out? It's on the 2 and 3 people that make it to take care of the 100 people who don't. At what point do we start sitting here saying, hey, yo, yes, I was able to do this. I've introduced you to do this. I showed you how to do this. Now it's time for you to take over. It's now time for you to take over and learn and take the position that I'm leaving so I can move on to make a way for the next thing. Because him going to a D1 school, him going to Colorado is going to open up the state, is going to open it up for the next black person who was in his position to come and coach at that level. Why are we so, and that's what I'm saying, that's cultural to me. We get so upset when somebody leaves or when somebody doesn't take, when we don't sit here and take everybody with us. Oh, well, you didn't take me with you. Oh, you didn't stay to keep doing and doing and doing. At what point do we sit here and say, okay, hey, we need to take responsibility and get up? That is cultural to me. That is a cultural mindset. At what point do we sit here and say, they did their job, it's our turn now? And I'm not sitting here saying that, again, it's just black folk. There's a lot of people who have is people that have mentalities. But when I sit here and talk about black folk, what's the one thing that we don't do? What's the one thing that we are accused of? Not sticking together. We went from always being together. Think about back in the day. When you hear your grandparents talk about back in the day, and you hear them and they say, hey, when I needed eggs, I was able to go next door, and they needed flour, they were able to come to me. We had a barter system. We switched it out. When you sit here and talk about how, you know, they were able to whoop each other's kids, when grandma and them could sit on the porch, when grandma could literally sit here, you know, when Big Mama can sit here and talk to the kid, right? When she can sit here and tell you, don't you better not do that, or I'm gonna tell your mama, you better get in that house before I whoop your butt. That kept the neighborhood together. You now sit here and look at it. Let somebody say something to these kids. Let somebody say something to a kid that ain't theirs. And I tell people this all the time. Don't leave your kid. Look, hey, I ain't saying nothing to nobody kid because I ain't got time to argue with you. I don't care if your look, and I'm sorry, and I'm gonna be honest with you. It sucks for it to say this because unfortunately this is where it has gotten. This is unfortunate just the way that it is, and to me it should not be this way. And it's like I said, it's very sad. But I'll let your kid break their neck. I will let your kid jump off of something and break their goddamn neck. You wanna know why? Because I'm not about to deal with you. It's sad that we are at a place and a point to where somebody can sit here and say, "Who cares?" Who literally be like, "Hey, we need to come together. We need to stick together." Well, let your kid break their neck because I would rather sit here and deal and have peace than to sit here and listen to your mouth talk about some. You better not talk to my kid that way. At what point did we adopt the mentality that it is not about us sticking together? At what point do we adopt the mentality that we are selfish? That it's about what I want. It's about me. It's all about me. It's all about what I want. It's all about what we're going to do. And if I don't want to do this and you're doing this, well, you got to take care of me on top of that. At what point did this get adopted? At what point did this change? At what point in the culture did that dye get mixed in with it? And I ask, when did it get adopted? Because, like I said, it was not always like this. So, how much of it is, hey, race, and how much of it is culture? How much of the reason why our culture is the way that it is because we adopted, because we changed, and what's the traditional and the original? And I get evolution. I get that stuff changes. I get as time goes, things change. But you still, no matter how you look at it, you still have a basis to what it is you build on. I've said this in past episodes as well. You still got to have a basis of what you build a house on. The blueprint, it doesn't matter how different the house look. You can build, it don't matter whether you build in a house that's 200,000. It don't matter if you build in a house that's 200,000. If you build in a house that's 1,000. If you build in a house that's 200 million. It all starts with a blueprint, and it all starts with a foundation. And unfortunately, my question is, when did we change the blueprint, and when did we change the base of our house? That part I don't know. And that's what I'm saying. Do I still think it is race? Do I still think race is a motivating factor? Yes. But do I also believe that culture plays a major part? Yes. And we as black folk have to start looking at our culture and start saying, hey, yes, these are the good things, but these are the bad things, and we have to address them. And do not take it as because a black person is talking about the issues with black people as not being for the culture. There's a difference between not being for the culture, being against the culture, and actually loving the culture. There's differences. When you're not for the culture, you're not for it. You're just not for it. You will talk against it. You'll spit on it. You'll deny it. You'll do X, Y, and Z. All you focus on is the bad. And the whole entire motivation about it is to literally point out you suck. It ain't about this. It ain't about that. It's trash. You're trash. The culture's trash. Is this, that, and the other. And that's what you'll focus on when you're not for the culture. And when you care about the culture, when you love the culture, you can sit here and say, hey, you know what? These are the issues. This is what we need to address. This is how we need to fix it. There are multiple ways that I feel like we can fix this. There are multiple ways that I feel like we need to come together and make this stuff work. But it's going to start with us accepting that we have problems. And we can't look, it's only so many times that we can point the fingers. Yes, I'm not saying it's all on us, but I'm not saying it's not either. We have to take our lion's share of the blame. We have to be willing to sit here and say, yep, we know all of this stuff is happening. Yep, we know all of this stuff is going on. We know all of this stuff has happened. We know this stuff was done to us. We know this stuff happened to us. We know that this stuff is still happening to us. We know that they are still doing. We get it. We understand it. Okay. Now, but this is what we're doing. This is what is happening to us. This is the part and the point that we play. This is what we're doing. How can we stop this? Number one, calm down on the goddamn divorces. I've said this before. I have no problems with interracial relationships, but if we are solely going to other people simply for the fact because they're not us, that is a problem. That is an issue. That's an absolute issue. If I'm simply dating a white woman because she's not black, that is a problem. And now we have to start fixing what the issues are with us. Once, in my personal opinion, that's just a personal opinion. Once we start fixing our household, man, we can start fixing the community. But it starts with us fixing our household. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that from other folks, and I get it. We don't want to necessarily hear that from anybody else, but it is the truth. In order to fix your community, you have to start with your house. If you're not willing to fix your house, you ain't gonna be able to reach your street. You can't fix the street, you can't fix the block. Can't fix the block, can't fix the community. Can't fix the community, you can't fix nothing else. We need to figure this stuff out. We need to come together. We need to re-up. We need to figure out what it is. The same things that have caused problems and that we adopted into our culture are the same things that we need to go ahead and start letting it go. And I'm saying this on all sides. We need to start letting that bad stuff go. We need to start letting that stuff that's destroying us go. We need to start figuring out how to be a team, how to be a community, how to be family, how to be friends, how to be on the same page. Because if we don't, it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse. And I believe what the culture turns into, because what it's turning into is horrible. It's bad now. But what it's going to turn into is going to be it's going to be much worse. So that's what I'm saying. We better figure out how to come together. We better figure out what the issues are with our culture and say it's okay and fix it. And I believe that we can do that if we're willing to put in the work, if we're willing to try, if we're willing to make the changes necessary. And we can sit here and come together and get ourselves out of this hole and show them why we are the influencers that we are. Show them the strength that everybody fears because they don't fear us as long as we're separate. They fear us as long as we are together. And I'm not, and when I say them, take that how you want to. You can say, oh, you're talking about white. I ain't just talking about white folk because white folk ain't the only people that hate us. White folk ain't the only folk that's against us. So it ain't all on you, white folk. There's a lot of folk who don't like black people, including black people. So we need to start figuring out, how to really, if we're going to be hated, give them a great reason. That's my thing. Give them a reason to hate you. And not just because you black. Give them a reason to sit here and say, man, because you black and you successful. You black and you're together. And I know this is going to go over some people's head, and I know this ain't for everybody, but it's real. My whole entire thing is I believe that we are strong. I believe that we are a great race. I believe that we all need to come together as the race is, but we all need to start fixing our stuff so we can so when we do come together, we ain't messing up. Because if we don't know how to treat each other, we ain't gonna know how to treat the next person. So the basic message is let's fix this, let's come together, and let's make all of this, and let's get this right. Let's get this wrong stuff right. And that's been the show. That's been the Basic Box Podcast episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys got something out of it. I appreciate it. Again, everybody who's listening, please share with your friends. Please share with your family. Please share with strangers. I don't care. Just post the link. As always, please comment. Let me know what I can do better. Let me know some topics that you guys want me to cover. I have no issues with criticism. Please, but please, be cool with it. Don't be disrespectful. Um, Again, I'm gonna try to release next week a new episode. So keep your eyes peeled for the links. And as always, in the words of Ricky and the words of Jackie Moon, I always want to call him Ricky Bobby because that's my other favorite character. But in the words of Jackie Moon, everybody love everybody. Happy holidays. Keep the love. And I'll see y'all next week. Peace.